Welcome to Road to Vostok First Campfire. For those who haven't followed the development since the beginning, my name is Antti, I'm the developer of Road to Vostok. My background is that I started learning game development 10 years ago, and I'm also a former army officer and visual game design teacher, but I resigned from both of those careers in order to become a full-time developer for Road to Vostok. I've been a full-time developer for 2 months now, and this decision to quit those careers has definitely been the right one. I know that I have the right background, skill set and motivation, so over the time Road to Vostok will become the best hardcore survival game out there. If you want to know more about my background and the goals for this project, I highly recommend watching the first introduction devlog episode on this channel. But now let's focus on this video. This campfire is a series where I go through important topics and answer your questions about the game. The purpose of these videos is to increase transparency and handle feedback related to the game in the future. This time there will be 3 main topics. These are content plan, developer Q&A and the future of the project. Let's jump straight into the first topic. Content plan's idea is to tell when and what game related material the developer plans to publish. Not all developers necessarily have this, but in my opinion this is important in terms of schedules and predictability of the content. Here's the current content plan for Road to Vostok. The first and most significant format that I'm going to focus on and commit to is those work in progress videos. At the moment, these videos seem to work really well, and the way they produce quick information about the progress of the project is the reason why it's worth committing to them. Making these videos is also extremely efficient from the developer's point of view, because editing takes almost no time and the material is created naturally along with the development. I will continue to make these VIP videos at the end of each month. I enjoy making them and I hope you will find them interesting in the future as well. The second content type that I think is important is this new campfire. This is designed to be a dialogue of some kind where it's possible to go through questions and feedback from you. The first couple of campfires will be just in pre-recorded video format, but in the future these videos will be taken to a stream format where I can answer questions live. I think personally it would be nice to have some sort of real-time dialogue, because most of the game development is rather one-sided work behind the scenes. But first I have to learn the streaming tools and get used to live broadcast and so on, so these first campfires will be pre-recorded. I think the good frequency for publishing these campfire videos is currently 4 times per year. And then there's the third content category, other. This includes trailers, devlog-like feature deep dives, cinematic videos and special events. For this category there is no specific schedule when the content is being published. The reason is that I want to maximize the game development time as long as there is just one developer. Regarding those cinematic videos, since all the game's maps are based on real abandoned places, the purpose of these videos is to showcase these places and at the same time tell the story elements of the game somehow in a visual form. I don't have the necessary equipment for these yet, but I have already taken a couple of clips with my phone just for testing purposes. Here are those clips. That was the content plan for Road to Vostok. I'm going to commit to it, and the next work in progress video will be then expected again at the end of this month. Next, let's move to the Q&A, where I picked your questions from Twitter and YouTube. I tried to choose different style of questions and those that had been asked multiple times. I also want to thank you for your interest in the game and in general for wanting to ask these questions. The first question is that will the weapons degrade with use? The answer to this is yes. All the weapons in the game will have a condition percentage, and using weapons will reduce that condition slowly over time. The weapon condition will be reflected in the weapon's reliability and visually in the weapon's textures. Visually it will be something like this. I will also mention that the condition of the weapon can be raised back up by maintaining the weapon or taking it to a weapon-related trader like in Stalker Anomaly. The next question. In the demo, what can we expect? I assume that this means the upcoming first demo, which is supposed to be released probably at the end of September if everything goes well. The goal with this public demo 1 is to give the opportunity to try out game's core mechanics, performance and general appearance. The demo will have a fairly compact village map, a procedural FPS controller, 6 weapons, an early version of the AI, looting possibilities, and a demo menu where you can adjust settings such as time of day and so on. This demo is also supposed to act as a reality check for the developer, meaning that the direction is right and there is a good potential and foundation in place in order to continue the development. Any possibility of co-op down the road? Yes, there is a possibility for this, and it has been actually internally tested that the game is, let's just say, co-op compatible in the future. However, it is important to first achieve a high-quality single-player experience and capable AI before developing the actual co-op functionalities. Is the AI gonna be smart? Will they go to cover and sometimes flank the player? My answer to this is that I have a strong confidence and a plan towards the AI and its capability in the future. In the first demo, it doesn't know how to get to cover yet, but flanking should be implemented by then. At the beginning, including the first demo, the AI will be quite simple, but a good AI system is so important for a single-player game, so a lot of effort will be put into it in the future. This is still pretty far from production ready, but here's one example that I have been working behind the scenes for AI. Let's imagine that in this picture you are the AI and the character behind the tree is the player. One common problem related to AI that I have tried to solve is player recognition. Typically in video games, player recognition is based on raycast functionality where the AI sends out the raycast and the recognition is based on whether the raycast hits the player or not. The common problem with this approach is that the recognition is very unrealistic sometimes, because the raycast recognizes hits from all objects. This is problematic because even if the player is clearly visible, the raycast can hit the mesh of the tree and the end result can be that the player is not recognized and the AI just walks past the player. Or the situation can be other way around, that the player is really well hidden but the raycast still finds the player and any kind of stealth-based immersion is broken. In the future, my approach in Road to Vostok will be based on a two-phase detection mechanism, which is based first on raycast that gives permission to move to the second phase. In this second phase, the AI takes low-res image of the game world and renders the player and the world in different colors. When this image is taken, the AI simply reads the percentage of color differences and the player's recognition only happens when a certain threshold value is exceeded. According to my initial tests, this will significantly improve the realism of the AI and there will be almost no effect on the game's performance. And the cool element here is that since the final recognition is done by color differences, this means that if the player wears, for example, camo patterned clothes, player will be harder to recognize from the terrain and nature elements. But yes, there will be a lot of advanced features planned for the AI in the future. What types of tools will help the player to locate himself in the Vostok? In Area 5, the player can use a compass, location-based paper maps, and there are also various signs that help the navigation. On the Vostok side, on the other hand, there are no paper maps available, the compass is not reliable, and some part of the environment is randomly generated every playthrough, so the goal is to make the navigation more difficult than to make it more easier. Is this gonna be completely realistic environment, or is there gonna be some paranormal activity too? In terms of fantasy elements, Road to Vostok has none of those. The game is designed to be a realistic hardcore survival game, but there are definitely still spooky environments, mysteries and dynamic events that make you feel unsafe, especially in the night. Will there be any customization for the player's appearance, like changing outfits or the color/camo outfits? Yes, there will be a full body clothing system like in DayZ. You will have item slots for head, face, torso, rig, backpack, legs, hands and feet. Related to clothing system and character preview, DayZ uses 3D character preview, Road to Vostok will use a 2D version of that. This means that clothing and equipment is based on 2D sprites and layers. If you are familiar with the game Neo Scavenger, the idea here is to do something similar with the character preview. But of course, the clothing items you place in the hand and torso slot will also have a 3D effect on the character's hand rig, so you can see them changing visually from the FPS camera. The goal is to have this system ready before the public demo too. Will the weapons be modifiable with various interchangeable stocks, optics, etc.? Yes, but there will be small restrictions in the early phases of the project. It is important to find an approach that is again easily manageable for one developer and that allows new weapons to be added to the game quickly. At first, I think my approach to this will be based on so-called mod kits. The idea here is that weapons can be upgraded to a certain extent using a mod kit item or buying an upgrade from the in-game weapon trader. Weapons of certain product family can be upgraded and the upgrade changes the appearance of the weapon, one could say in a more tactical direction, and adds more attachment slots to the weapon. Each upgrade level will also slightly improve the parameters of the weapon. I think a system like this could be a good middle ground choice for weapon modding from the perspective of production speed. In this context, however, it is necessary to mention that these mod kits will be pretty rare in the game and the upgrade price from the weapon trader will be really high. The goal is that you really have to do a lot of work in order to get good weapons, meaning progress in the game. As an additional note, I think there was also another question, which was, is it possible to change attachments on the fly? Yes, you can. There's a specific weapon UI for that, which is always available. What would you consider the main selling point for the game right now? First of all, in my opinion, there are far too few realistic and hardcore first-person survival games on the market in general, meaning high-quality experiences. A game that can offer realistic survival experience and weapon handling without fantasy elements like zombies is in itself important to bring to the market. But I think the main selling point for this game is still based on this dangerous journey to Vostok. The thought of crossing the border zone and moving into this dangerous area at the risk of losing everything is really compelling for me. I truly believe that I can produce a rather unique survival experience related to this ideology. If you want to learn more about this design approach, the first introduction devlog video has more detailed explanation to this. Would love to see your workflow for creating props, especially since you are not going with the PBR route. My workflow is heavily based on references from the real world. I have a large collection of reference images that I have collected over several years in order to help the production of this game. I go to abandoned places, military museums, flea markets, and look for objects in sheds, warehouses and in nature that are suitable for this game. This way of photographing objects from the real world and bringing them into game is really meaningful for me, and I believe that the end result will also look good over time. If you want an idea what kind of techniques and tools I use, let's take a look for example that radio shown in the last video. I basically went to flea market looking for an old radio, and when I found the right one, I bought the radio for €5. Then I went back home and took a couple of pictures of the radio with my phone. After that, I modeled a low poly version of the radio with Blender and unwrapped the model with grid-based UV approach. Next, I took the UVs into Photoshop, placed the photos of the radio on top of those UV islands, and that's really all. This approach to modeling and texturing is really fast for me and allows me to make optimized game models really easily, and these assets don't consume much file space because all the models use only one texture map. And visually, I also think that this kind of style fits the game pretty well. There were still many more questions to be answered, but hopefully there were some interesting answers from me among the ones that I decided to choose in this video. The last thing I want to talk about is the next steps and the future of the project. As some of you already know, at the end of September this year, the plan is to release a small playable demo for free on Steam. The main purpose of this first demo is to receive initial feedback from those core mechanics. After this first demo is released, I will update the demo according to your feedback, and then the journey towards the next milestone will begin. The next big milestone will be in Q3 2023. I will then publish another free demo of the game that works as a vertical slice. Towards this milestone, I will be also hiring world-class freelancers in specific areas to speed up the production, and I will organize 3 different workshops that will boost several key areas of the game. And the goal for all this is clear. I'm going to develop the best single-player hardcore survival game out there, and if this sounds promising to you and you believe in this vision, I launched a Patreon for this project that will hopefully give me the possibility to continue working as a full-time developer, hire freelancers, and maintain 100% creative control to the project. If you want to check out that Road to Vostok Patreon, there are currently 3 different tiers to choose from, but if the price point of these tiers doesn't feel right to you, there is also the possibility of support with a custom pledge. I think that Patreon can be a significant factor related to production of this project. I would be more than grateful if you decide to support me and this game. Finally, there is this one question. What do you see after the launch of the game? Years of iteration and tweaks, a new project, hiring someone to expand the game. Here's a picture of my first game project 10 years ago. I didn't know anything about game development at the time, but I still knew that in the future I wanted to make this game what I'm doing now. It took me 10 years to reach this skill level where I can now develop Road to Vostok, and the goal is not to work on any other project than this. I don't have any exit plans or intention to move the project aside even after the release. I'm planning to stay on this project for a long time. And along the way there may be some small failures and problems, but this is not a project that will disappear suddenly, and I'm not a developer who runs away to the next project. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.